to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle as to strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It's a great Monday morning. Thank you everyone for joining us here on Global Television. Hope you had a great weekend. We'll get right into all of that. And the beat, I am Uyag Mofrebe. It's a pleasure knowing that you're joining us on Global Morning here today. We're coming to you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. The start of the working week as we know it, and it's a delight to know that you're part of the company we're keeping this morning. Again, we say thank you for staying with us here on the program. My colleague, she's already incidentally this morning, would love to always introduce herself by herself and for herself.
Hi, Uyi. It's great to be here, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Monday morning.
It is.
I'm excited to be here. Good morning, and to each and every one of you, good morning. It's Global Morning, and of course, I am Jumai Manson.
All right, great. So you already said it's a beautiful Monday morning.
Yes, it is.
Of course, that's what it is. For those of you who live in this part of the world, I mean, this also have African Pescara where Hamilton is a natural phenomenon.
Yes.
I'm sure you understand how this drill works, right? So it shouldn't be a big deal for you. I mean, a few days ago, I started feeling actually that the air was becoming hot and unfriendly. I had to find a way to deal with that. I mean, a nose mask could really save the day for you. But just understand how the weather around this time and in this part of the continent is at this time, and then you find a way to beat it. Last week had several events being recorded, including the attendance and return to Abuja. The attendance of the COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, by our president, Bola Tinubu, and his wife. And then, of course, this last weekend, Saturday precisely, returned to Abuja. The questions are now being asked as to what value that trip brought for Nigeria and what value we've derived from other trips that the president has taken. Of course, time will fail us to run through all of those issues quickly this morning, but at some point we'll have to do all of that assessment. But the immediate concern is, what exactly is COP29? What does it mean for Nigeria?
What does it entail?
Exactly. I mean, what are we supposed to benefit from that? And of course, the entire world, especially now that you're talking about the upward review from 250 billion to $300 billion by way of support for poorer nations, as they are called. But that's something that has to do with climate change and all of the issues around global warming and how poorer nations, or the global south, as most of these countries, including Nigeria, are called, can help support themselves, do better, and try to, if you like, do damage control of whatever impact, adverse impacts that climate change has done to the world. But that's a conversation for another time. But for today, there are several issues in front of us, including the tax reform bills that the executive arm of government, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, had sent to the National Assembly. We understand that today, for example, the members of the House of Reps will be looking at those proposals as they are, and 19 governors from the North, all the governors from the North, say we are against these bills because the proposals are anti-North. Therefore, there's no way we can throw away behind it. And this consensus cuts across party lines and what have you, right? Political affiliations and all of that. Because their argument is that these bills do not support the overall interests or serve the overall interests of the North. And as such, there is need to review. We also have not forgotten how that the National Economic Council had said that these bills should be withdrawn or recalled so that a review can be done. On the contrary, the president has vetoed that. The president says, leave the bills where they are in front of the legislature. if Juma is interested enough to want to make a contribution, let her send that contribution to the National Assembly. So we shouldn't withdraw it because we wants us to withdraw it. If we has interest in it, by all means, let him also send his contribution to the National Assembly. In any case, at some point, you're going to have public hearing. So let Nigerians now use that opportunity to make their contributions to these bills. But of course, there's a second issue, the security concern in the southeast. We understand that a certain Simon Ikba has been arrested in Finland, and people are saying, well, thank God, ultimately there will be peace in the southeast.
Hopefully.
But exactly, that's an instructive word. But some people say, well, you can't guarantee there'll be peace.
Yes, you cannot.
Yes, in the southeast, just on account of arresting Simon Ikba. But the federal government says two things must happen going forward. One is to indict those who have supported him, whether financially or technically. The second is to say that there is need, as quickly as possible, to have him extradited. So these are the two big topics we have in front of us on the program this morning.
And let's not forget, in the course of the program, we have the newspaper review,
Right.
we have the AM News, which will be coming up, and of course, the first and second discuss of the day, which we will be delving into and
Right.
knowing everything in general. All right, now, so let's quickly go on a very quick break. I remember it's Global Morning on Global Television. Do not go anywhere. The program continues shortly. Stay tuned.
Everyone, thank you for staying with us. Time to turn to the papers for you this morning. As it turns out, we're beginning with the Nigerian Tribune real quick. But let's take a quick break because I have a bunch of them to bring to you this morning. We'll start out with the Tribune when we turn out on the short break. Do stay with us. All right, so we turn to the Tribune newspaper today. Real quick headlines about the nameplate, top left first. Here says FCTA releases, let's see, list of C of O, that's certificate of occupancy, debtors in Abuja. FCTA releases list of C of O debtors in Abuja. Has a rider with it. Says you should see details on pages 25 and 133. Another headline with a picture of Dangote says Dangote refinery reduces petrol price from 990 naira to 970 naira for marketers. So the question is, at what price will marketers sell? Because we're still going to have the landing cost element at the end of the day. Apparently, all of these trucks by the marketers will load products in Lagos and then disperse or distribute across the country. So how much will it sell in Sokoto, in Maiduguri, in Umuahia, in Abia states, then of course in Port Harcourt, in Akwa Ibom, and in Ibadan, and places like Ondo. So these are factors that will also play out in this regard going forward. But then we have a star story in front of the Nigerian Tribune for you. Says PDP chair, fresh plots to retain Damago beyond 2025 unfolds. You find those intriguing details on page 21 of today's issue of the Nigerian Tribune. All right, let's see the headlines on the left corner of the front page of the Tribune. $17.1 billion IDA loans, projects abandonments, naira depreciation, paints a black future for dollar loans. We paid 1 billion naira ransom to bandits, Southern Kaduna community cries out. We paid 1 billion naira ransom to bandits, Southern Kaduna community cries out. University of Oxford invites Jimoh Ibrahim, Australian PM, to talk on mega projects. University of Oxford invites Jimoh Ibrahim, Australian PM, to talk on mega projects. Nigeria, Brazil sign MOU to boost agribusiness in 774 LGAs. Nigeria, Brazil sign MOU to boost agribusiness in 774 LGAs. Now, if you followed the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, you would have noticed that President Bola Tinubu and the team that accompanied him to that event had some talks, what they call sideline discussions with entities in Brazil. One of the outcomes is what we're seeing now with this MOU that is aimed at supporting agriculture or agribusiness across all 774 local government areas in Nigeria. Okay, still staying with the Tribune. Southwest speakers, other principal officers to push for full legislative autonomy. Of course, we're done with local government autonomy. Next point of action is the legislative autonomy. But this headline has two riders accompanying it. The first one says, plan to meet Governors Forum to update fund management laws of Southwest Parliament. And then as we turn to the right side, right corner, that is, of the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, we find a headline here that says, Nasima OPS caution on impact of arbitrary taxation on business economy. Clerk to Kekere Eko, Buhari's removal of Fonore, a dent on Nigeria's democratic record. Clerk to Kekere Eko, that's your kicker. Buhari's removal of Fonore, a dent on Nigeria's democratic record. That goes back to former President Buhari's days. Tinubu Buhari did not prepare for governors. That is credited to Archbishop of Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Matthew Kuka. And then lastly, here on the front page of the Tribune, we find a headline that reads, Omokri to critics, economy rebounding under Tinubu's reforms. That's the ever controversial Reno Omokri there talking. So let's have Juma lead us through the Daily Trust newspaper now.
All right, now on the Daily Trust newspaper, below the caption of the Daily Trust, we have Dangote Refinery reduces petrol price to 970 naira per litre. Of course, we said that on the Vanguard, you read that. And then also beside that, it says fact check. Now, senators misinterpreted constitution to endorse CCT chair's removal. And you can find that read on page 42 of the Daily Trust. And Senator Barrow equipped Kano Police Command with 1,000 motorcycles. And of course, that is a step in the right direction to at least fight insecurity in the state. And of course, that's a good one by the senator. And of course, the star story on the Daily Trust says presidency lobbies National Assembly over tax reform bills. And we'll see how well that plays out, basically. We're just, I hope we don't go back and forth on this matter, but let it just be a balance, like you mentioned. You mentioned when it only focuses on the north and all of that, but let's see. Let it just be a balance. It's very important.
To favor the entire country.
See, because at the end of the day, it's the masses. It's us. It's each and every one of us. And let's just see how well these reforms play out. All right, let's not delve too much on that. And of course, the rider on that caption says proposed laws meant for good governance, and that's Boala. And then below that it says ICPC tracks 21 billion naira constituency projects in Kaduna. And it says unfortunate incident. It says 8 killed in Abuja Kaduna road crash. And will we say it's due to bad roads or
overspeeding, withdrawal slip off,
negligence, or the
drunk driving,
or the car not being in good condition? A lot of things can actually play out, but hopefully. And then it says, I could have been a drug addict, and that's in the words of Obasanjo. All right, okay. And it says 3,000 litigations stall AMCON's 5 trillion naira loans recovery. And that's it on the Daily Trust. Please go out and get yourself a copy so you can have a look on the read and, of course, the captions making rounds this morning. And next, we'll move over to the Punch newspaper and we will be giving us a rundown.
All right, let's do that real quick, everyone. We'll begin with the headlines above the nameplate, as always. This time, top right corner first with a picture of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Kadoso. Says an interest rate hike likely again as MPC meets today. So Monetary Policy Committee, that's the MPC of the Central Bank, will be meeting today. So there's the, insinuation, some people will say is the projection that the MPR, that's the monetary policy rates, might hike again today. But let's see how that turns out. Global Television will follow that development for you. Next, it says presidency tackles Kuka for tagging Tinubu accidental leader. Yes, we saw that coming. Now that you have a 3-man team of Bayo Nanuga, Daniel Boala, and of course you have the other gentleman there, all three of them. Add to that the fourth gentleman, the Minister of Information, all right, making this a very formidable team. You can imagine the kind of response or rebuttal that Archbishop Kukah will receive on this front. All right, let's turn to other stories for you now. Top left corner with a picture of Adebayo Adelabu, Minister of Power. Says upgrades, that's the kicker. Discos may move 3 million subscribers to estimated billing. I thought you might were done with this estimated billing wahala before now, but it seems we're going back to 3 million. That's a whole lot of number.
A whole lot, really, and it's just an unfortunate incident that we're still going back and forth with this issue. But hopefully, well, like I mean, I'm always hopeful. I'm a patriotic Nigerian. You cannot blame me. But at the same time, let's just see how well it plays out.
So hopefully, they don't move you from band A to estimated billing. No, I mean, let's be hopeful together.
Let's be hopeful together. Right. But, you know, like I said, there's some people that will tell you, Juba, I cannot believe I don't want to be in band A. I'll outrightly tell you.
Let me determine where I want to be.
Exactly. So, and I think if it plays that way, people will tell you, okay, fine, I have that, this is what I want. I want to use, I don't want electricity in the morning. I prefer it at night. I just want it 6 hours and I'm done. As long as the things in my freezer are okay and all of that. But you're putting me in this out of duress. Are you kidding me right now? And the worst part is you're in band A. Hi.
Come on, I usually want to have that conversation this morning. I mean, I found myself there, but again, it's a real concern where people cannot control what they use and how they use it. You can't just railroad people into a certain power plant and then they're able to pay and then you come to disconnect them. Or even for those who have prepaid meters, for example, the billing is cutthroat and as such they are left without power for the most parts, and not everybody can afford alternatives like solar, for example. Now you look at the price of a 3 kVA generator, let's not talk about 5 or 7 kVA, and you don't want to see the price tag on it.
No, you don't want to. It's just, this is so sad because a lot of Nigerians are going through a lot. Like I've said, because of this electricity issue, a lot of businesses have actually folded up because some people cannot keep up with the price of fuel. We're not done with that, and now electricity is on its own. There's this, and then we're not done with that. Then we have gas to deal with. We have diesel to deal. We have all of these things, but unfortunately, a lot of people are dealing with electricity. Some people prefer to just, you know, because of the frustrations, people would just prefer, I don't need light. Someone would just, I don't need electricity. Whatever they want to do, they should do, because you cannot keep up with your salary at the same time. You have house rent, you have school fees, you have to pay the bills. This is really frustrating. I thought we're done with this, but we keep going back.
We're back here now.
Do you think there's a carcass around it or something?
Well, it will appear now that there's no industry or sector in Nigeria without a cabal, as we say, right? Whether it's telecoms, banking, the big pharma, as I say, that's the pharmaceutical industry, or you want to talk about power now, you want to talk about oil and gas, of course in politics. So the cabal element always plays. But you see, that's where regulation and monitoring and evaluation, oversight, all of these elements come to play. Because you don't regulate just to punish companies or players or stakeholders in the sector. You also regulate to protect them, and then at the same time protect the consumers so that nobody loses. And that's why you have the anti-competition laws in civilized climes across Europe, across continental America, for example. But whether we are being able to borrow that model, because just this last week, I mean, this is instructive. The Attorney General of the Federation, who doubles as Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, was talking to anti-corruption agencies, leading them EFCC and ICPC to say, look, borrow the model of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, who would have done a thorough investigation before they invite Juma and Uyi for questioning. Unlike in our crime here, where you would have arrested everybody before you start doing investigation, and then you do a sloppy job, you get these people to the court, and the judge makes a mockery of the prosecutors, because the judge says, you have not done due diligence on this matter. You have brought shallow evidence that can't even stand the test of time. And then you see somebody who has been accused or has been alleged to have stolen 200 billion. He's set free. He's discharged and acquitted. In some cases, just giving a slap on the wrist. Because exactly, the law enforcement and the anti-graft agencies have not done a thorough job. So the AGF is saying, learn from the FBI. So the question is, can we not replicate the same model in the power sector, for example, how is power sector regulated in Germany, in France, in the US, in Canada, in England? Can we not replicate all of those? Because you are fast to say Nigeria is the cheapest, Nigeria is the most affordable when it comes to power, when it comes to this, when it comes to fuel. But how about when it comes to regulation, sound, robust regulatory framework? Why don't you also emulate those?
I think we're not ready for that discussion now. I don't think we're ready to actually delve into it for people to look at these regulations that are surrounding the power sector. I don't think we're ready for that discussion. Deep down, I would say. But I think that is the way forward.
It is.
To create that balance which we need. Because the ban A, ban B, ban C, which we talk about, we keep going back and forth with it. And I said, many people are not ready for that government. Like I said, I'm not ready for that government.
So let's allow sleeping dogs lie.
Please, immediately. It's very important. But at the same time, this is causing a lot of issues in Nigeria. A lot. And like I said, some will tell you, I don't even want to be in ban A. Hello. But sometimes you find yourself there in ban A. I don't even understand how this process is being done. How is the category? How do you know why? How come? Like, I'm surprised you tell me that you're in band A, and I was like, "Are you seriously?" I'm like, well,
okay, you're not even concerned about how I knew I was in band A. It was one of the field officers of the
I don't want to rub it
service provider that mentioned it in passing, not that he wanted to inform me categorically. We were having a conversation about, all of these outrageous billing and all of that. And then he mentioned it, like I said, in passing and all of that. You see, that's a challenge. That again highlights the opaqueness in the sector. No transparency.
Exactly.
How do you get people on a plan they don't even understand?
Really?
And then, like, telecoms operators will say terms and conditions apply. What are the terms? What are the conditions? Am I not supposed to be abreast of them?
Fully aware. Know what I'm getting myself into.
Exactly.
To know how to create that balance. I don't even know how the payment will be done. So I won't stagger going back and forth. All right.
But it's a long drawn out conversation. Let's just move on with our paper review this morning. Akpabio, has gone to Akpabio, President of Nigeria Senate, has a picture of his here, and it says Tinubu may present budget this week. That's according to the Senate. Well, we understand the proposal is ready. 47.8 trillion. Significant move from what we had for the 2024 fiscal year. But of course, the Senate will do their part. The House of Reps will also play their role, and we'll see what that comes to, whether there's going to be some subtraction or addition at the end. We'll find out. The star story on the front page of the Punch newspaper reads, yes, the Punch newspaper, that's where we are. It says, reps may clash over Tinubu's $2.2 billion fresh loan Tuesday. That's tomorrow. Two headlines with that. Two riders, I should say, with that headline here. Loan is an extra burden on governments. Nigerians Minority Caucus. One. We will approve loan and ensure it is not diverted. Deputy spokesman there talking. I'm not sure. This is the Senate spokesman talking, making promises that the law will be approved, but the Senate will ensure that it's not diverted. But nobody is telling us how the previous loans got diverted, and who's supposed to take responsibility for such a diversion. I'm not sure Nigerians can bank on this kind of very weak promise. But let's go ahead with our review this morning. At the foot of the paper, still the Punch newspaper, PDP governors, 24 state chairman plotting to keep Damagun. That's according to reps. Police hunt Ogun woman for dumping child outside clinic. This point, my mom will say, "Where is your motherliness?" All right. The last one here reads, yes.
Talking about that motherliness, a lot of issues could have played out. I've learned to be subtle when it comes to issues. Like maybe she couldn't afford to take care of the child, or maybe there's just something when it comes to the harsh economy. It can make a lot of, like you heard about the story. There was a story we read here on Global One about a woman who just carried her kids to the police station and committed suicide because she couldn't afford to feed these kids. So a lot of things, she felt maybe the child would be more safer or better in the hands of the police than in her care. A lot of things that have played out.
Right. Okay, so let's not push this so that will become a symposium discussion this morning. But let's take it to the Punch newspaper. Times are tough, no doubt about
that. Times are tough.
All right. It says Oyedipo's jets can't leave private airstrip without clearance. Kayamo or Yodik jet can't leave private airstrip without clearance. That is credited to Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kayamo, SAN. All right, let's leave it there with the Punch newspaper and then take you now to The Guardian, and Juma has those headlines for us.
All right, on The Guardian newspaper now, the star story on The Guardian says MPC's imminent rate hike jolts firms amid inflation survival concerns. And you can find that read on page 6 of the Punch newspaper. Now, on the right corner, the way we says it, on the Punch, it says all Nigerian presidents were unprepared except Tinubu, says Kuka, and we can find that read on page 6. And of course the picture of Dangote, Aliko Dangote, and it says Dangote cuts petrol price to 970 naira for marketers. Ipman takes coup. And here it says we saved $20 billion from subsidy removal forex floating, says Edun. COP29 sets 2035 target for $300 billion yearly pledge to developing countries. And you can find that read on page 7. Deviant contractors yet to deliver projects worth 74 billion naira. And here we can find that on page 30. And moving on now, below the feet of the Guardian newspaper, it says stakeholders insist aging pipelines account for 50% oil spill. And AMCON seeks judiciary support to resolve over 3,000 asset recovery litigations. And you can find that read on page 18 of the Guardian newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast. And we will run us through the Nation news.
Okay, so let's take a look at the Nation. Incidentally, our last paper for you this morning, the Nation newspaper. The star story is our first port of call. It says labor in showdown with 4 states over minimum wage. So the question is, what's holding the states from implementing the new minimum wage? And
this is another issue going back and forth. Minimum wage, really.
Even when the coast is clear.
The coast is clear. So why is there a stall with these states? It's just unfortunate that this is Nigeria in which we find ourselves. Some people feel they're above the law, and some people feel, well, they can just do anything once they're in power. But you should understand that you are the mouthpiece, and you must do right by each and every person in which you represent.
Well, that's what said. 2 riders with that big story. Katsina Cross River Zamfara Imo to face battle. 32 states FCT in full compliance. Full, that's the operative word. Let's come down to the headline, just on the fruits of the Nation newspaper today. Economy fully on the rebound with Tinubu's reforms, says Omokri. All right. Then let's turn to the headlines above the nameplates. Petrol pump price to go down. Dangote cut off 20 naira. Juma Ibrahim, Australia PM, to speak at Oxford University Confab. Adeleke to build airports in Ede, Dom Sidor Show project. Lagos welcomes Supreme Court's voiding of Lottery Acts. So states now can decide how they want to regulate lottery. Kano state says we're not interested in lottery. It's banned. It's against our laws here. The other states can decide whether they also want to ban or to accept and determine how they want to regulate. Okay. What's more? Obaseki clash over move to probe past administration. That's on page 7, where you'll find the details for yourself. We understand the state's government has now set up a probe panel to look at the 8 years of Obaseki, the immediate past governor of Edo State, in office. But now there's a clash between both. But the question is, what did we do with the probe that Oshomole did 8 years of Lucky Gbenedion? That report never saw the light of day. Today it has been gathering dust since 2009, when the former governor picked it up as an issue for him, and nobody ever had that conversation again beyond the point where the panel's chairman at the time chimed in the report. So let's see how it goes. Incidentally, the bulk of the people on this panel are members of the APC, very senior members of the APC, at least at the state level. It's like being a judge in your own cause. People have raised questions around neutrality, fairness, and if you like, justice as far as this panel is concerned. Hopefully it doesn't become political, because every time that happens, it is the good people of Edo State who suffer. All right, sir, more headlines for you from the Nation newspaper. CBN likely to raise interest rates to halt inflation. That's headline has a picture of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the rider reads, experts predict MPC tightening of monetary policy. Nigeria, Brazil packed to boost agric in 774 councils. Sounds like a big day coming for agribusiness in Nigeria, and I'm sure that those in that sector can't wait to see this boost happen across all the 774 local government areas of the country. Incidentally, that's all we have from the papers this morning, Jumai.
Yes, and of course, go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed. It's very important to know the issues and the happenings making round in our great country, Nigeria. We're going to go on a quick break now, and then we'll come back, and then of course, AM News will come shortly after. Stick around. It's Global Morning on Global Television. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned. All right, you're welcome back, and it's Global Morning on Global Television, and we're just here discussing about issues on the paper, and we brought up the issue of the woman that left her child in front of the clinic. Of course, it is a human angle issue when it comes to women, and you mentioned something. You said there was something you said about mothers. It was a statement.
Yeah, exactly. When we were looking at the papers, I said my mom would have asked, "What is your motherliness?" And then you threw in a bit of defense to say, "Well, you can't tell what circumstances she was under when she actually had to drop off that child, not because she was necessarily callous or trying to be inhuman, and things like that."
Because basically, a lot of things would have led to that. Of course, the hospital will definitely take care of her baby. She knows that her baby, she has that assurance that the baby will definitely eat in the morning. She'll be bathed, clothed. There'll be clothes around the baby's back and all of that. So maybe the economic hardship in which many people find themselves now are the cause of issues or the kind of actions in which they take. But is that should we really bank on that and say she's being careless or wicked, or what would you say to that kind of issue? A woman that just has a child, drops the child in front of a hospital and leaves. Do you think she doesn't have motherliness in her or anything?
I think there are a couple of angles to look at it from. One of them is the one that is human. There's this bond that the mom shares with her child, especially infants like this, right? So that will make her develop naturally some remarkable level of resilience and tenacity, ordinarily, all right? Then what else? There's the issue of, well, like you mentioned, who knows what the academic circumstances were for her as of when she left off the child, right? But you see, I'm also trying to pick up a factor here, which is the fact that we've had people who have been married for years, some of them upwards of 1 decade, some of them close to 2 decades.
Sure.
They've not been able to make children, make babies, right? They've been running from pillar to post trying to have babies, especially in the African society, all right, where we find ourselves. And then you realize that it's a gruesome experience for them, all right? It's quite challenging. Of course, if you talk to people who have attempted or who have been able to successfully adopt children, I'm not talking about those who patronize baby factories. I'm talking about those who follow the standard legal procedure to adopt children. They will tell you how rigorous it is. I mean, I've spoken to an acting commissioner one time in a state who told me about how rigorous it can be to adopt a child.
It's very frustrating.
The processes, because the authorities, the government, in this case, are also trying to ensure that people don't abuse that process, people don't abuse that privilege, because it's a privilege to have a child adopted. Yes, as somebody who is adopting a child, you may feel you're doing the child a huge favor, which is very true. However, it is a privilege because that's someone else's child that you are being allowed to adopt. Therefore, government ensures that due diligence is done, background checks are carried out, vetting is done, and so on and so forth. However, when women abandon children, it raises the question of, is it because of economic pressure? Is it because of the circumstances under which that woman got pregnant and had that baby?
Sure.
Is it because there are people who should not, on any accounts, for any reason, know that you have a child because the baby came out of wedlock? Could that be it? Could it be stigma that led you to that action? Could it be the fear of you don't know exactly how to take care of that child, fend for that child? If that's the case, question again would be, don't you have a family? Don't you have people who care enough? Could you not have done it in a way that is more decent, more honorable, more human? I mean, these are questions. This is not an avenue to judge or to scold. It's a way of saying that we can do better as a society so that we don't continue to have these instances of people dropping on their babies at trash heap and all of that.
All right, that's well said. And at this point, we have to tune over. We have the AM News, which is coming up next. It's still Global Morning. Stick around. Do not go anywhere.
and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Amina Jibril. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nigecomsat. Edo spoke at a ceremony held to mark the first 100. The minister spoke at an event held to mark the first 100 days in office of Esther Walso Jack, head of civil service of the Federation in Abuja. Edo said the flows now return into the government's coffers for further deployment to the aforementioned sectors. President Tinubu had announced removal of subsidy removal in May of last year. However, 3 months later, it had been reported that President Tinubu was considering a temporary subsidy in petrol as crude oil prices and foreign exchange rates soared. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has advocated for a curriculum overhaul to boost skills acquisition and industrial development in Nigerian polytechnics. The news will continue.